All right, everybody, thanks for checking out my channel. Today, and actually it's over about a week and a half, we're gonna build this solid hardwood nightstand or end table, whatever you want to use it for. This is my take on the one that everybody builds out of a couple 2x6s, single drawer. It's all hardwood, like I said, it's cherry. The grain is actually flowing around, so if you look, you can see it actually looks like one board was just cut into three because it was. The top on it is a mixture of cherry, Paduke, and Purple Heart. I finished it with a lacquer, wet sanded and polished it, so you can see pretty clearly the window there. So yeah, stick around. We're gonna build this one. I'm gonna try to cut this video down to 20 minutes. But yeah, my girlfriend's been after me to make her a nightstand for quite a while, and this is what I came up with. So yeah, this should look pretty good in our house, and if she doesn't like it, it's gonna be my end table next to my recliner. And welcome back, everybody. Starting a new build today. I'm gonna build a nightstand. I'm gonna start by building the base out of this piece of birch. This is S3S birch, but I always like to just take a good straight edge and make sure that that third side that was surfaced is actually quite straight. All right, so this is why I do that. This has an LED guide, not a laser guide, but you can see that blade is actually gonna square that off. So I'm just gonna go ahead and cut that real quick, and we'll see how she goes. There we go, nice and straight. Now we'll just measure back 28 inches and probably cut 2 lengths of that, and I should be able to get my 4 legs out of it. All right, all 3 of those are cut to length. Now we gotta cut them to width. One thing with birch, it does burn. All right, so got 8 of these cut. They're gonna get glued together. These 2 are cherry. These are gonna be my front facing 2. And the rest of these will be the back. And I will try to put the nice grain out. See, some of this birch has some nice dark wood to it. And some of it is just literally white. So I'll try to put the nicest grain out so it looks all good, everything. But yeah. So all the ones that are laying down are getting glue, and these ones are not. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and spread that on there, and then I'll just clamp them up. All right, got glue on all of them, and I'm just kind of flipping them up into place after I glue them. Obviously, I'm only gluing every other one because they need to be separated, but then after I get them all in place, I go around and tighten them a little more. Got glue on the bottom of my GoPro here. I'll have to clean that off. And those will be my 4 legs. So we'll clean those up, I guess, tomorrow. All right, just broke all these free. They glued up really well. Still a little wet. This was the bottom. Kind of expect that, but I flipped them over so it'll dry. Other side's obviously completely dry already. Gonna be a lot of sanding, and then I'll have to clean them up on the miter saw just to get a square edge on them. But that's not a big deal at all. Then I can get them equal length and everything too. But yeah, that's gonna be my 4 legs. All right, so all those are cut, and now I gotta glue them together. There's 2 pieces of cherry that are gonna be front facing. So when you open the drawer, you see cherry, and the rest is just the birch. So yeah, we'll gotta glue a few of them up. Not all of them actually, but just a few. All right, so I got a couple of the supports glued in. This is the cherry front with the cherry piece. I'm just using these as spacers in the back so they don't tend to bow or anything, keeping them nice and snug. and this one's all birch. But this will be front, this will be back. All right, so I got my pieces out of clamps. I put the other little runners in on the legs here. We're gonna build them into a box here pretty soon. I need that glue to dry up. I picked up some L brackets too, and where it's gonna be hidden, I'm gonna use those just for a little extra strength. It was $8 for a 20 pack, so figured why not. All right, so I've got everything for the base in place and glued up. Using a lot of clamps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to hold everything tight. All right, so I'm just going around right now. I'm putting a round over on the outside edges. And this is where the drawer face will be. I'll do that front and back. And then on the inside edges, where there'll be actual wood here covering it, I am gonna still use a round over, but not this large of one. This is like a 28-degree round over. It's pretty big. So yeah, I do have a bunch of smaller ones, but I just want to take the sharpness off it. All right, so I've got it all sanded to 180 grit. That took like 3 hours. I'm gonna clean it with some paint thinner, let that dry, and then I'm gonna stain it with this black cherry. And then I still need to cut this cherry board to fill in 2 sides of it. I may use that plywood as the backer. I may use a piece of this too, I haven't decided yet. And I got to make a drawer front out of that as well. One thing I like about cleaning with mineral spirit or paint thinner, they're the same thing. I don't care what anybody says. Paint thinner is just like 5% toluene on top of the mineral spirit, but it gives you an idea of what the wood's really going to look like. Obviously I'm going to stain it so it'll be a lot darker, but that's essentially what the grain would look like if I just put an oil finish on it. This is black cherry stain from Rust-Oleum on cherry. Yeah, actually keeps the grain nice. I don't really like stain, but this one looks pretty good. So this has been drying about 3 hours now. So I'm gonna hit this with a coat of poly, not all of it. I am gonna get this front here, all 4 legs. I'm not gonna get these slats here because I still need to glue in these pieces. But I just wanted to make sure I got poly down everywhere that I wouldn't be able to once they were in. So I'm gonna go ahead and just put the first coat on. So yes, it's water-based poly. I don't like it, nobody likes it, but I have it, so I'm just gonna use it. I did wipe it with a tack cloth to get the dust nibs off, and for stain that's supposed to be dry in an hour, it's been 3 hours and I still got a little off, but I don't think that's gonna be a big deal. It should still harden up in there okay, so I'm just gonna mix this up a few minutes and start spreading. All right, so I got the first coat on. Doesn't really look much different. This water-based poly is kind of milky until it dries. All right, just like that, and then I'm gonna do these sides too. But yeah, nice basic design. All right, so this is a piece of 2x6. I gotta buzz the roundovers off it real quick. This is going to be my drawer sides. After I buzz the roundovers off, I'm actually going to cut it in half lengthwise. Camera fell off, but here they are. These can easily be cleaned up with just a sander, but it always does leave a little line in there. That's it. I definitely need a new set of blades. I've got this line right here. I must have a chip in one of my blades. Goes all the way. It actually did it on this side too. So this knot kind of ripped out a little bit, but I can just cut that off. All right, so I'm just working on the drawer now. I've got them marked lightly with a pencil. I'll still have to sand them after I get everything cut into them, but this will be the sides. Nicest face on the inside, of course. Other side, and front or back, front or back. And then obviously I'm gonna put a nice piece of cherry on the front as well and a pull. So I need to cut some grooves in it because I have this, I don't even know where I got it, but I have this thin piece of ply here that I'll just use as the drawer bottom. But I got to cut some grooves in them. Looks like it's just 1/4 inch ply, so it should be fairly easy. All right, so this is a really simple box build, and that's what I'm doing for the drawer on this. I don't have it glued or anything yet, but these are those chunks of 2x6. I just, with the table saw, cut it out, cut the plywood to size, and I'm going to glue it all together. And then I will probably cut some splines into it after it's all sealed up, just probably 1 or 2 on each one for a little extra strength. All right, so it's 2 full days later. I actually didn't get out here last night. I ended up working late. And this is all glued up. I'm gonna go ahead and take the clamps off it. I'm gonna cut 2 splines into each corner here, just to try to better hold this. Probably not necessary, but I have some Paduke and some walnut strips. I haven't decided which ones I'll use. But I'll get this out of clamps and then we'll just kind of assess the situation, because right now, I mean, it's just a butt joint, which isn't the strongest. They're not, oddly enough, not that weak, but they're not that strong either. So yeah, I'll get it unclamped and see where we're at. I whipped up a quick jig to cut my splines. When I say quick, I mean like some 2x4s cut at 45 and stuck to a straight edge with some double-sided tape. So there's the first 4. All right, and that is nice and snug, maybe even a little too snug, I'm not sure. But that's pretty much what we're gonna do. I'm gonna slide it over, get some measurements. I need 8 of these total. It's just a quick update, got the first half of them in. All right, so I trimmed all my splines. Now I just gotta sand the box, sand the 2 sides. I did end up doing a chamfer on the sides, just on the bottom. And I gotta sand the drawer front, obviously, and then I actually got to round over the 2 sides on these, and I got to round over the box as well, just to make it a little cleaner. So yeah, that's next. All right, so laid it on its side so I can put the side slats in. This is the front face here, and I'm just gonna glue those in, well, really with just glue now, and I'll add some L brackets after that dries. Then I'll probably put a clamp to hold them in place, but they've got 1 coat of poly on them too, so I'll go ahead and get that ready. So I'm just whipping up a drawer pull here. Instead of buying one, I figured I had this square of Paduke. Might as well do something with it. It's a little beat up, but after I make a few cuts on it, it should work out pretty well. And I do really like this wood, so yeah, I just set my table saw blade to 30 degrees. And I'm gonna buzz it through a couple times and see what happens. Hopefully I got enough battery for this. I know my GoPro died on me earlier. Yeah, that'll work. And of course I'll clean it up, I'll round it a little bit, but I'll stick that on the drawer, give it something to pull out on, easy to grab. So this piece is going to be my drawer front. I'm just going to chamfer it. I'm not going to do anything crazy to make it look crazy or anything. I marked a drawer, but I'm just going to chamfer it so it will have some accent to it. And I'm just setting my table saw to a 25-degree angle, but I'm going to get this set up and go ahead and do it. All right, so on the drawer face, I drew a quick grid and put some glue on my pull. And I also marked this. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a mark there, and there's one there that I line up with the other line. That ensures that I get it on there good and straight. So I'm gonna go ahead and stick that on there. Try to set that up somewhere you can see. All right, we're in the center. I've got my drawer here, my drawer front anyways, and the glue has dried up overnight. And I'm still gonna screw it. I just drew a line dead across the center, marked out 2 areas I'm gonna screw. I'm gonna drill first, and then I'm gonna drill bigger so I can countersink these just a little bit so I have a flat glue surface. So I'll go ahead and do that now. Take a look at the bit. See, I did get into that Paduke, and that's what I wanted. So I'll do that for both sides, and then I'll just widen it a little bit for the screw head. That went a lot deeper than I thought. Those DeWalt drill bits go very quickly. I'm shocked at how sharp they are, actually. But now I'm just going to put these wood screws in. Went just big enough to fit the head, so I can have a flat glue surface. So I'll go ahead and wind those in. All right, those are in there. And just a few minutes of the sander to get all these pencil lines off and smooth everything out real quick. And then I'll be able to put some finish on this one, at least on the front sides, and then have it glued up here within an hour. So the drawer face is done. I'm about to spray some finish on it. I'm not going to use the water-based poly that I brushed it with. I'm just going to use this Minwax spray poly. I have it, I just don't want to try to brush around this handle, so I think spray will get into all the cracks a little bit better. All right, just sprayed that a little. That spray's really thick, actually. I'm kind of shocked. But a couple areas on the side I got to get a little more on, but the top I got really good. And that's just the first coat. The stuff does dry pretty quickly, so I should be able to get a little more on there in about 20 minutes, half an hour. Yeah, I don't know. It definitely warms the wood a lot better than that water base does. I may sand that and just go over the whole thing again with a coat of this. I think I have enough in there, so yeah, I think that's probably what I'll do. Okay, so I got the first one in place. I just put a clamp on it to kind of hold it there. I put one shim underneath to keep the gap even, top and bottom. And I still have to do the other side. All right, so that's all I'm doing. I'm just spreading it really thin. Hopefully you can see this. And then I just kind of pop this piece up in. And slip it into place. Right about there. All right, so I just sanded this over with 320 real quick. Just to smooth it out a little, and then we're gonna put the next coat on. I'm gonna have to use the water-based, unfortunately. I don't have enough of the spray to cover the whole thing. Much as I'd like to, because it does look way better, I don't have enough. So I brought a decent brush out here this time instead of a foam one, and I'll go over this whole thing. Interesting comparison for you. So this one is water-based poly. It did warm the grain a little bit, and it shows, but this drawer front is oil-based poly, and it definitely penetrated it better. So I'm going to attach my drawer here. The poly on it's still a little bit tacky, but I'm growing impatient. I pre-drilled 2 holes in it and have the screws started. I'm also going to put a little wood glue on there, and I may use some CA glue just to seal it in place. This water-based poly, I don't love it, but I gotta say, within an hour, it is dry. I could almost sand this at this point. And it is highlighting this grain. I'll probably just rub it with a paper bag. I don't even think I'll sand it any further. If I do, it'll be with 600 or 800 grit and then paste wax it. But yeah, so I've got the box in there where I want it. I've got my screws started, so I'm gonna put just a little glue, a few areas around it. And then I'll put a couple dabs of CA glue to hold it in place too. Earplugs are in because this thing's really loud. Here we go. All right, we're all planed. Got some chip out on the Purple Heart, which I kind of expected. Last time I ran Purple Heart through this planer, same thing. So the Paduke always planes really nice, but I don't think 2 blades is enough for a wood as hard as Purple Heart. All right, so I'm about to do the final glue up on this one. I'm just going to use the Type Bond Original here because this is not a cutting board. It does not have to be waterproof. We're just going to plop this in here and line it up. And there we go. That. And I'll just line up one edge of it as best I can to make it easier to square off on the table saw. It's all clamped up. And these are just moderately tight. I don't want them so tight that I lose all the glue. But I want them tight enough to keep a good glue line on it. So I'm just going to put a little 30-degree chamfer on it real quick. It's not going to take much. This isn't quite as big as I should have made it. I should have made it one more strip and just a touch wider, but do that real quick. It'll only take a few seconds, so everything's locked into place. So nice little strip. And we'll hit this side real quick too. We still got to do these sides. We'll do that too. So one thing important to point out, whenever you see these strips break, it's always going to be at the Paduke. Paduke doesn't absorb wood glue very well. See, I just did again. And that's kind of the downfall. See, I just snapped that with my fingers. Not that it's a bad wood, but because of the natural oils, you have to do a very large glue joint with it because it just tends to almost reject it a little. All right, 2 more cuts, and then I can sand this thing. One more. And cherry cuts like butter. That's the general shape of it. Now we got a ton of sanding, and I am out of propane out here, so it is getting cold. So I've got a good amount of chip out in here, and I'm not going to sand this for 12 hours to try to get through that. So I'm just going to fill it with some CA glue, call it a day. All right, so I've got the whole thing sanded to 120 grit. This is the tabletop. I touched up a few areas, you know, the chip out that was in the Purple Heart that I was just too deep to sand with some CA glue. So you see all that. I've got to go over it with 220 now, and that should take all this CA glue off and leave me with a nice smooth surface. The only downfall of doing this is when you put a finish on, obviously it doesn't soak in underneath that. So it will be a little bit noticeable. All right, so sand it over with 220. And you can still see those dark spots. That's where that CA glue is. All right, so I just wiped it down with some thinner, but that gives you an idea what it's actually going to look like. And you know, you can, I don't know if the camera shows it, still see those paint thinner or those CA glue spots. And I can even see the little tear outs there. But you get a couple feet back and it actually looks really good. So, I mean, this is for my house. I'm not selling it. So I probably won't do any more. I'll probably just get this thing nice and clean and then I'll finish it tomorrow. All right, so I just laid some plastic out, cleaned up all the dust that was in the area. I'm gonna try to get a coat of finish on each side of this tonight. Decided to go with lacquer. I actually just have like 5 cans of this Rust-Oleum clear lacquer kicking around. I got this for a really cheap price, so I figured why not? What's the worst that could happen? It was only $2.99 a can. Just taking a tack cloth, and this was a clean end of it, and you do see a little bit coming out, so that's why I always do it, even after you clean it with a heavy chemical. Still a good idea. So got it over on the plastic. I suppose I can kill the heat now and just get cracking on this thing. So I'll do that real quick. All right, tank's closed off, heater's out. So I'm first just going to spray around the edges, and then I'll go with the grain all the way across the top. You don't really need to go very heavy with this either, because you just do multiple coats. And the next coat just kind of blends in with it. Six to 8 inches away, typically. But the stuff, it goes on really nice, and it just melts into each other. That's it, the entire first coat's on. All right, so I just sprayed the third coat on the top, and it's definitely still wet and a little bit of orange peel in there, but that will smooth out when I rub it down. But I'm gonna leave this one overnight. It's got really good even coverage right now, so hopefully that'll be the final coat. All right, it's the next day. I've got about 6 coats on here. There's still a few spots that look a little dull, but I'm confident there's enough finish on them. So what I'm gonna do is, you can see this orange peel in here. It's actually not terrible as it is, but this is 800 grit paper. I'm gonna wet sand it to get it all flat. And then I have some 1500 and some 2000 grit paper as well. All right, so I've sanded it to 1500 grit. I don't know if you can really see it, but it's very dull. There's a few spots on here that there's plenty of finish on there, but it doesn't look that great. So I don't know if that'll shine out or if that's just not sticking to the wood that well there. There's still a few little shiny marks on here, so it's not perfectly flat, but I don't want to take too much more off of it. All right, so this is just some leftover automotive compound. It's Meguiar's Ultimate. It's not very aggressive, but it does work. So I'm just gonna smear a good amount of this on the board here. I've never tried this on wood, only actually on cars. But once you get it on, just grab a clean pad, spread it kind of liberally. And I actually have an automotive polish. If this works, I may try that too. I don't use a lot of automotive stuff in woodworking. I used to be a car guy, so I have a lot of it kicking around, but I'm just gonna spread that on there, get some good coverage. And we'll set that aside. And then I'm literally just using a little 20-volt sander. This one's a lot slower than my, my electric one. And I put a polishing pad on it. Yeah, let's buff it. All right, just a paper towel. I'm gonna wipe it, see what we're working with. All right, so I just applied a coat, that's why it looks so hazy, of this Minwax finishing paste. I did briefly hit it with the Ultimate Polish too, which did add a little more sheen to it. I gotta let this wax tack up for 15-20 minutes and then rub it off. So I'm gonna go grab a microfiber. All right, it's been a few minutes, probably about 15, so I'm gonna start wiping this off. You're gonna see this really shine here. So this wax isn't that easy to take off, and that's why a lot of people actually don't like using wax on wood. But it's not terrible, and it does fill a lot of the small imperfections, but just show you the little area I just wiped, but look at that. And then of course you can see it's all still hazy over here. But yeah, I'm gonna rub it down, I'll take some shots after, and then hopefully we'll get this thing mounted to the base today. So to attach this top, I just flipped it over onto the cookies. And I've got 4 L brackets in place where I'm gonna mount it. So I actually decided just to go with 3. This is really stable. I mean, it's not that big of a project. All right, this is just some foot pad material I just cut to size. I'm just gonna stick one on each. Obviously that's gonna look kind of like shit, but whatever. My floors are all wood, so I don't really want to beat it up too bad. But yeah, once those are on there, this thing is done. So I'll just go ahead and stick those on now. It's just adhesive backing.